Trump has warned, or now warns Iran, that Iran will pay many times over every time it kills an American soldier. We'll see what that means. Back to that new possible front for this war. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels have declared their own naval blockade now against Saudi Arabia in the Bab el-Mandab Strait, threatening another blow to oil markets and international shipping across the globe.
Look, it sounds like escalation. The Houthis about to, they say, stop Saudi shipping, its important route to the international market for its oil that it pipes all the way across the Arabian Peninsula to its port on the Red Sea, and then the ships pick it up in the port and then take it out through past Yemen, through Bab al-Mandab, which is what the Houthis are citing that they will, their point of cutting off that shipping. They haven't started yet. Their leader's expected to give a big speech on Thursday. What he says may give us some indication of whether or not the Houthis will follow through on this. Undoubtedly, if they do, you can expect Saudi to respond. So that would be a point of escalation right there. Israel also says that it's readying in case escalation brings it into the conflict. The head of the IDF here saying they're ready at a moment's notice. Jordan, just a few miles from where we are now, intercepted 3 missiles just a few hours ago, Iranian missiles there. The Iranians say that they're attacking U.S. Air Force facilities on the ground inside of Jordan. Kuwait today, again, sirens going off there. The Kuwaiti officials saying for the 4th day their water and desalination plants have been hit again, degrading their services. The United States continuing its attacks pretty much along the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf to try to stop the Iranians putting their small attack boats out and hitting the few commercial vessels that are trying to get out of the Strait of Hormuz. And by early morning today, the Iranians had again hit another tanker, setting it on fire. The crew abandoned ship. The Iranians claimed they hit another couple of tankers. So in this sort of pre-escalation level of the conflict, if you will, the Iranians seem to have been able to come out each of the past few nights and hit a tanker trying to go in or out the Strait of Hormuz. Their point is, you're hitting us, we're proving our point, we control the Strait of Hormuz. That's the state of play. It's all about control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Senator, I know we were all struck by Jay Clayton's confirmation hearing last week, and particularly by the degree to which you were personally kind of expressed bitter disappointment at his performance on a number of levels, including his refusal to say that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. This is somebody who you have known for a long time, as you said, and that earlier you had expressed some openness to, said that he was the guy, had the right temperament to be DNI, and you just announced a couple days ago that you lost your vote. What do you foresee? You can talk about that a little bit, how you came to that conclusion, but also what do you foresee now for the confirmation prospects of Jay Clayton going forward?
Well, first of all, let's acknowledge that, the worst is the fact that Bill Pulte is the acting DNI, and I think he was part of putting together that absolutely absurd speech the president put on last Thursday night, where most legitimate networks didn't even cover it as news. So we want to get rid of Pulte. But I think Jay will be confirmed by probably exclusively Republican votes. I know Jay. I like Jay. I was disappointed. My hope is that the Jay Clayton I know, if he ends up being DNI, will take that job and bring some grit back to it, because I think we've still got a president that wants to interfere in our elections, because this president knows if we have free and fair elections this year, he and his allies are going to get slapped down in a record way, because his policies are so terribly unpopular.
So Iran's strategy is twofold. They, as we talked about, they want to block the flow of global energy, spike the price of oil, impact American public opinion. The other way they want to impact American public opinion is by going after U.S. bases in not only the Persian Gulf, as you talked about, Bahrain, Kuwait, but also Jordan, where they just killed a couple U.S. service members. And the reality is that even though Iran has been diminished militarily, it still is able to produce thousands of drones and missiles per month, and those missiles and drones are still very impactful and deadly.
He says we may go after Pickaxe Mountain, which is an Iranian facility. What's the significance? What do we believe is going on there?
So that is one of Iran's nuclear facilities. There's a perception that that is where some of their highly enriched uranium is. Up until now, unfortunately, none of these military attacks on Iran have really altered their calculations. And, you know, it's a regime which has been diminished, as I said, militarily, but psychologically it has been boosted because it feels like it has prevailed in this war. And although we're more than 30 days past the 60-day window of the Memorandum of Understanding, there are no signs that Iran is preparing to compromise on its nuclear program or over the control over the Strait of Hormuz.
We'd love to, but we can't. I'm sorry, this falls on deaf ears. This is absurd. To whatever degree we don't have time, it's because we're choosing not to give it the time that it needs, that it deserves, that it requires. And shame on all of us for betraying our oath to the Constitution and our moral commitment to our own voters. We're expected to look out for them, to defend them, to respect them enough. We've got to give a crap, just enough of a crap, in order to tell our voters to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to allow your vote to be offset by someone who is voting illegally. That's the least we can do.
It's Tuesday, 21 July, year of our Lord 2026. At about 11 o'clock or 11:15, President of Lebanon is going to come for a bilat to the White House. So much for no more foreign bilats. We're just going to focus on domestic. I guess we've jettison that. He's going to be there. We're going to break it down for you. Neil Mccabe's at the White House. Also, I believe you saw Mike Lee. And if we can put up the tweet from Jake Sherman over at Punch Bowl, he's reporting that it hasn't been a denial that Russ Vought is sitting there and saying, hey, the filibuster, we're not going to be able to get a standing filibuster. We're not going to break the filibuster. The Senate is essentially treating President Trump, as a lame duck. So what Russ does is essentially raise the white flag. That the only tool we have to rely on now is reconciliation. So we have to essentially bribe the Senate, because reconciliation is just a package of, more tax cuts that they want. They even talking about it's not going to happen, but they're talking about the capital gains tax cut and more money. I think the reconciliation, I still can't get my arms around it, whether it's just a $88 billion or $78 billion that's principally for this war, or whether it's $350 billion. But right there, Jake Sherman's reporting, and has not been denied by OMB, that Russ is telling them, no, we're not going to be able to break the filibuster. That means, when you say break the filibuster, that means that you saw the heroic Mike Lee and Eric Schmidt. Mike Lee right there, Eric Schmidt back in, I don't know, was it April or May, when we try to make a run on actually passing the Save America Act. And I believe what Mike Lee is saying is that it is, as we've been saying, if you debated it now or attach it to anything, that, or even got the parliamentarian who is the parliamentarian from the Obama era, who we have not removed. We haven't removed because the leadership in the Senate is comfortable having a parliamentarian that is basically an Obama era parliamentarian, right? So that's where we stand on the SAVE Act, and you see that Mark Warner says it right there. We have to get rid of Pulte. We have to get rid of Pulte. Why do they have to get rid of Pulte? Because Pulte and John Solomon are the only two aspects that are drilling down to show you intelligence that they know that the Chinese Communist Party and others tilted shifted the election against President Trump for Joe Biden in 2020. This is the same intelligence apparatus that today Axios reporting by the Mossad agent they've got over there that is stenographer for Netanyahu. They're talking about the two alternatives the president has today. The two alternatives, these are the alternatives. The alternative, number one, is that we get back in with whoever's there, the moderates or whoever talk to us, and now we have a 10-day ceasefire. We do an MOU. First off, these guys have never done anything in 10 days. We get an MOU signed or agreed to by whatever left of the regime that'll talk to us. And whether they have any power or not, I don't think so, because we just signed an MOU with these guys for 60 days and nothing, they did not deliver on one deliverable, not one. So now Axios is telling us that some of the Gulf Emirates and Pakistan. Yeah, that would be the same Pakistan, since we've got a quasi-blockade in the North Arabian Sea. That is the Pakistan that now has six overland routes from Central Asia to get Chinese parts and Chinese Communist Party weapons into Iran. That Pakistan, another one of our great allies. I can't figure out who's the best ally. I've got the trademark on Israel being America's greatest ally. I've trademarked that. But I don't know if it's Saudi Arabia, if it's UAE, if it's Qatar, if it's Pakistan, Turkey. Take them all. Why would you want to be allied with any of these nations? Israel's plan is still to march to Beirut, and today we have the president of Lebanon coming in. My point, Bannon, get to your point. You're kind of drifting on me. Get to your point. Here's the point. Unless you go to a full-out economic warfare, because the two alternatives laid out in Axios, which the White House has not refuted, says that, number one, we're going to get with whoever we can get with at the behest of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and a couple others to negotiate a 10-day ceasefire to try to get some things done in this ceasefire and still see if this framework works as we open the Strait of Hormuz. The other is a full-scale military, essentially, invasion with Israel. A full-scale. Now, both of those, and coupled with the Lebanon president coming today, shows you one thing, that you're going to be actively engaged with kinetic operations for the foreseeable future. And I mean way past, forget the midterm elections. I mean into 2027, deep into 2027. If you take either of these alternatives, that means I'm buying into the construct. On top of this, the Houthis have finally said, hey, I want in on some of this. They wouldn't come in unless they think their side's winning. They're in now, and they're going to do what I have warned about from the beginning. They're going to go back to the summer 2025, and they are going to block the entrance to a very tight entrance, worse than Hormuz, to the Red Sea that leads up to the Suez Canal for Europe. And one of the reasons I think the Houthis are saying that is say, hey, I haven't seen NATO come in and support Trump. I don't see the Royal Navy here. That used to be their beat. I don't see the Royal Navy. I don't see the French Navy. I don't see the Italian Navy. I see an overstretched U.S. Navy. So we're going to block it now. They're talking about we're going to block that, and that is 100% to Europe. So we are left with footing the entire bill, putting up the kids of America, footing the bill for what? What? Tell me what the prize is here. The either you've got in the MOU, it's engagement with the regime to help, because they're going to require money. They're going to require sanctions come off. They're going to require some of the cash we have frozen. Or the other is complete kinetic war, which you're in. And so both of them are dealing with the regime, either propping it up or trying to take it down. That's the two alternatives. The third alternative, just pure out economic warfare. Because Scott Besson's saying today that, hey, we found some more cash from the Ayatollah. Well, I thought we found all the cash for these guys. Let's get serious on the economic warfare side and break these people that way, where we can take our troops out. We can get out of the kinetic part. Anyway, there's no solution to this that's going to happen quickly. Just not. That is the unfortunate reality. Of course, we're voting on a bill. We'll get more into this later. We're voting on a bill to actually integrate the militaries of Israel in the United States. I know they say, no, we took out one word, so it doesn't mean that. It totally means that. Short commercial break. We're going to get back, go to the White House. We got Neil Mccabe. Natalie Wonder's also going to join us early this morning.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, instead of talking about voter fraud and the stealing of the 2020 election and what we're doing between now and 100 days from now. Of course, there's primaries today. I think Arizona, Michigan, some others. Instead of focusing on what we need to make sure the 2026 election is not stolen, we're back to the Middle East. It's about opportunity costs. Let me go to Mccabe. This is now, and to add to the confusion, I just want to be blunt here because you got to be. This thing is not going according to plan. Obviously, part of this is the horrible intelligence the president is getting. Why is Pulte and why is Pulte so bad at DNI? The CIA and the Mossad have given nothing but terrible information and terrible. They've set up terrible choices based upon exquisite intelligence, the worst intel in the world. And they're still pushing this narrative that the Persians are just all set to overthrow the regime. That ain't happening. Not unless you break them financially, and that's going to take a while. Persian nationalism is now rising because they think that they've beaten the great Satan. I'm not saying they have beaten the great Satan. In their psychology, in their mind, they think they're winning. If people didn't think they were winning, the Houthis wouldn't be jumping in on this to get a little piece of the action. Houthis are saying, hey, the Americans are stretched out now in the North Arabian Sea. They can't cover us like they did back in the summer of 2025 when the Houthis gave as good as they got. These are tough hombres, like going into Appalachia and fighting the Scotch-Irish up there on their territory. Same thing with the Persians along those cliffs in Hormuz. These folks have been doing this for thousands of years, and they intend to do it for thousands of years to come. So the Houthis jumping in should not. People should read that as a reality check. But all this, assumes that you're either going to deal with this regime on one hand or you're going to try to take it down. Now, in the confusion, the original MOU, I think, had Iran as part of the decisions of what's going to happen in Lebanon and Syria and these other places. And that was unacceptable to the neocons. So Rubio got involved. Rubio's, we got the MOU team here, which is kind of their structure is the Abraham Accords, which I tell you is kind of this economic and business framework. And President Trump just came out, I think 2 days ago, and said, everybody's got to sign up for the Abraham Accords. You must sign up for the Abraham Accords because that is a business and economic solution for what looks like intractable vendettas and vengeance of various tribal types in the Middle East that have been doing this for thousands of years. And like I said, we'll be doing it for thousands of years in the future unless they're replaced by robots. This is Rubio, so Rubio's got up there and he's gotten involved, and this is his solution. Of course, Israel and Netanyahu want to be a part of this and say this can't happen without their active involvement. But today we're going to have the Christian leader of Lebanon, a field commander, and President Trump likes it in Pakistan and Syria and in Lebanon. He's got a certain type, you can tell. He likes people who have a few battle scars on them. And as he says about the guy in Syria, he's no choir boy, but he feels he can deal with him. Neil Mccabe, you're at the White House. We're going to cut to the bilat, particularly if President Trump, if he opens up to the press, which I assume he will, maybe not originally, maybe during the Charlie Kirk show, but if he takes questions, because as Axios says, we've just gone through 10 days of intensive bombing, and we're coming into a fork in the road. I happen to believe that the fork just doesn't have two ways to go down. It has a third or maybe a fourth, but we're heading down to a decision point anyway. Neil, what do you got at the White House?
Yes, Steve. President Joseph Aoun commanded the Lebanese army from 2017 to 2025. He was known as a guy who did not involve the military in politics. He wanted to build up the army as sort of that objective backbone of the country. Now that he's president, he is asserting himself and that army as a tool of Lebanon's restoring sovereignty. to basically make it the biggest, baddest militia in the country. And that first test is the plan for Israel to withdraw from southern Lebanon and for Hezbollah to disarm and hand over their weapons and to have those sectors replaced by the Lebanese army, which will secure it, hold it, and restore Lebanese sovereignty. Netanyahu, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has signed off on this plan. President Donald J. Trump has signed off on that plan. The Israelis are kind of slow walking it because they're hesitant because they want that buffer in southern Lebanon. But Aoun is committed, and his pitch to the president today is back me and I will make it happen. And it shouldn't be lost on people that this is a man who carries shrapnel in his body when he was in kinetic, real firefight combat. And he also grew up in southern Lebanon. And so he feels that this is almost personal, restoring Lebanese sovereignty to that area, Steve.
When you say Israel supports it, what Israel wants is the destruction of Hezbollah, not simply its. And what's the incentive here for Hezbollah to lay down their weapons? Because this means, coming out of this meeting today, this is another multi-year engagement by the United States of America. This will not be agreed to unless the United States gives certain, wait for it, security guarantees and probably money, big-time cash and security guarantees. Just logical. This is why this is the Rubio neocon, alternative. Let's be the police. He's going to Asia saying we can't be the policeman to the world. Well, hey, dude, I'd rather be the policeman in the South China Sea and the Strait of Taiwan where we're protecting those chip factories than from the Chinese Communist Party. Then once again, in another excursion in Lebanon, I think President Reagan did it best. When President Reagan, and they said I think the two worst mistakes of his presidency, which he would talk about, first was the amnesty deal where he gave amnesty and they didn't shut down the borders. They suckered him. He admitted that later. He got suckered. The other one was putting the Marines in the barracks there in Lebanon, of which the terrorists blew up and killed all the Marines. And he had tons of voices in his ear right now. You gotta double down. We gotta triple down. We gotta, this Lebanon thing has got to be done. And Reagan said, hey, how about this? Let's get out. One war at a time. Right, the old Lincoln, one war at a time. I'm here to take down the evil empire. I'm not going to get tied up in all these extracurricular activity that'll just suck us in like Vietnam. They always start small. So explain to the audience in the way that you understand it or the way it's been presented. Why is this not another open-ended American commitment to take weapons from some bad hombres? The probability that Hezbollah is going to turn over weapons without big-time fighting is zero, okay? We just saw the Houthis. The Houthis looked around and said, hey, you know what? And the Houthis are bad guys, but they're tough as all get out. They've beaten the Egyptians. They've beaten the British. They've beaten the Saudis. They've beaten UAE. They take on all comers because they're like mountain folk. And now they're choosing to say, hey, look, I think we're going to shut down the entrance to the Red Sea, and we're going to shut down Suez. So why is this Lebanon situation as good as this guy? He's a Maronite Christian. He's got shrapnel. He's a field commander. President Trump will say he's from Central Casting because he is from Central Casting. But does that make a difference? Are we looking at a President Diem that, or the military coup in Vietnam, where now you got the military guys in charge and not a bunch of politicians, but you get sucked into a multi-year open-ended commitment to create some buffer in Lebanon that doesn't make any difference in the world to the vital national security interests of the United States of America, sir?
The problem is the other option is to walk away. And so people aren't sure they want to do that either. President Aoun is presenting this as an option, and perhaps Hezbollah can sort of evolve into Sinn Féin. That's what
but hang on,
it already has.
Isn't the option we say walk away?
Go ahead.
Say walk away. The option is to tell Israel, it's your call. We're out. This is you're not a vassal state of the United States. right? Which they hate when I say that. Even in local domestic Israeli politics, Netanyahu comes, we are not a vassal state. Well, if you're not a vassal state, stop taking commands from the United States of America. The way to do that, you're a sovereign nation. So Israel should make a decision. If they're a sovereign nation, it's their fight. It's not our fight. And so it's just to turn it over to the Israelis and say, you decide. If you like this guy, you figure it out with him. If you want to put General Keane, and General Keene's back on Fox. And what's General Keane saying? We have to have major combat operations. When they say major combat operations, they mean that little the young private in the U.S. Army who just graduated from high school in May of 2025. Think about that for a second. She graduated from high school in May of 2025, and now she's among the honored dead of our military. Okay? Up in Jordan. Why are we in Jordan? Because of the Israeli situation. So why is it not time to say, Israel, it's your call. You like this guy, go for it. You want to buffer, go for it. You want to march to Beirut, go for it. You want to put Keane make him a major general, like they made the Filipinos made MacArthur. You want to make him a major general and give him a tank column? Give him a tank column, and let's throw Tel Aviv Levin and Ted Cruz and all of them. All of them volunteer. You can volunteer for the IDF, put a uniform on, get in a tank column, and you do what you want. And we are just out. This is once again, an open-ended commitment to get involved. And I've been the one sitting there. This is not about Israel. This is the same thing about Ukraine. The Russian-speaking eastern border of Ukraine is not in the vital national security interests of the United States. That's where we got to put the chips. The vital national security interests of the United States of America right now is making sure the Chinese Communist Party and other foreign actors are not in our elections electing people they want instead of who the people of the United States want. Short commercial break. I'm going to finally let Neil Mccabe speak when we get back. Natalie Winters also join us. Back in a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
One of our engine room, one of our best engine room people from the New York division of the engine room. I just quote, and this is a person who knows a lot about the region. Quote, I want out and I want effing mass deportations now. Neil Mccabe, and Neil, I'm not beating you up. You've actually served over there. You understand this region as well as anybody. And the president is trying to look for solutions, and he's trying to do what's right. Got to make sure we're getting correct intelligence. I think the solution is very simple. If your objective is to disarm Hezbollah, who are light infantry, I do agree, they're more than just a terrorist organization. They're a paramilitary organization. And up till recently, they were probably the best light infantry, I would argue, probably maybe in the world of hitting and having staying power. But if you want to accomplish what wants to be accomplished, to me, you got to just tell the Israelis, you're a sovereign state. You make decisions. You buy weapons for us. We're not going to integrate the militaries. You go for it. And eventually, I'm telling you, as sure as the turning of the earth to do that, it'll be partnering with this Christian general and marching up to Beirut to assist them. And then together they clean out Hezbollah in what'll be a nasty war that'll take a decade. But if you want to do it, that's probably the way to do it. If you get too involved in this thing now, this is exactly like Southeast Asia. If you get too involved now, you're going to be there. Let's leave Tehran and everything there aside. You're going to be there for a while. In the burning issues of today are not in downtown Beirut. They're not in southern Lebanon. They're not in Syria. It's not in Jordan. It's not in downtown Tehran. It's not in the Red Sea with the Houthis. We're taking on, now we got more enemies and more people popping up. We got plenty of enemies of this nation that happen to be in control of New York City, in Chicago, in Minneapolis, in Los Angeles, and that's growing. And you're going to see today in some of these primaries, that is a clear and present danger. Okay, that is a clear and that is in the vital. Let's talk about security interest and vital national security interest. In the imperial state, in the way that the corporations want the military and the deep state to be the cop everywhere, even Rubio had to say it. One of the biggest neocons out there had to say it. distracted him for a second for the invasion of Cuba, because now you see they're teeing up Cuba. Cuba's the font of communism, and Cuba's the font of all this and that. This is how they prep the information war battlefield. We could be everywhere. In fact, we are everywhere. I think we're in 127 countries. You can be spread all over hell's half acre with what are security concerns. You got to prioritize. This is how you stop yourself from having a $2 trillion defense budget paid for by the American taxpayers and not any of these deadbeats around the world, including the biggest deadbeats, which are the Gulf Emirates right now. They're total free riding on the United States of America and the kids in the United States of America. How many, the young woman that graduated in May of 2025, she dies in Jordan. How many young princelings have we had die in the Saudi royal family? And they got thousands. Everybody's a prince. How many have they died? I haven't seen any reported yet. How many UAE have died? 0. How many Qatar? Qatar's over here, and they're talking big stuff. They're going to do this. They're going to put money in here. They're financing the New York public schools. They're spreading Islam in this country every day in Texas. Their money. How many of that guy, the royal family there, how many they're dead? How many dead? Tell me, how many dead? 0. How many UAE dead? 0. How many Saudi princes dead? 0. You've got a young woman who I think she's barely out of her teens, who is raised up right by parents. Raised up. These are the good guys. Remember, we're doing this to the good guys. We get a good guy, and next thing you know, she's over in Jordan, she's dead. This is an open-ended commitment, once again, to a war that is not in the vital national security interest of the United States. It's in the vital national security interest of Israel. I 100% agree with that. But they're not a vassal state, and they're not a protectorate. They're their own sovereign nation. And hey, guess what? They're tough hombres too. They can give better than they get. And so if they want to do that, if they like the cut of this guy's jib, if they like, finally, we got a military commander, we don't have to deal with some mealy-mouthed politician. Hey, it looks like you found a partner. If we get involved, and this is what Rubio and the neocons want, we get involved and cut all this up, and they'll overwhelm you with all this nonsense. To cut to the heart of it, this is the young woman that just graduated from high school. You're going to have a lot of young men and women over there in the middle of this. And these people hate each other from time immemorial. It ain't our fight. We got enough fight. When I start seeing mass deportations and I start seeing us confront Mandami's going to arrest Netanyahu. I'm no fan of Netanyahu, but you're going to have some guy, it's a mayor, that's already nullifying federal law by not allowing ICE. And now they're talking about, we're going to send ICE into New York, which send ICE into New York first and then talk to me about it. You're sitting there with these mayors that are just saying, no, we're not. We're a sanctuary city. We're going to. And Mandami gives about the ICE thing. He says, hey, we're not going to let ICE go after Americans. Yo, bro, they're not Americans. They're illegal aliens, or they're foreign, or they're non-citizen aliens. That ain't Americans. They're not Americans. That's the vital national interest and security of the United States of America. We have the enemy inside the gate here. We have tons of money coming from the Gulf, supporting an Islamic invasion of this country. You see it in Texas. You've got these Marxists running this in Minneapolis, that now the federal government can't even go in and support a law. Remember, these two laws, mass deportations and voter integrity, ID, to make sure they're not foreigners voters. ID is supported by 80% of the American people, and mass deportations are like 67%. You have two issues that have overwhelming support of the citizens of the United States of America that we just won't even touch. We won't even touch, yet we're going to go halfway around the world, and we're going to get involved in negotiating Lebanon peace, and we're going to get involved in Jordan, we're going to get involved in Syria, we're going to get involved in Tehran, and now the Houthis go, hey, you guys are so feckless. Your Navy, and Captain Fidel and I obviously think the world of the United States Navy, your Navy is so stretched. You were not that stretched in 2025 when we took you on, right? And we shot down, an F-16? Come on, bring it. We're going to now shut it down and dare you to come and open it up. And let's see. The Royal Navy going to stop us? No. Is the French Navy going to stop us? No. Is the Italian Navy going to stop us? No. So keeping Suez open going to fall to the United States of America. Marco Rubio, this is the problem with being a neocon. Okay, this is a problem. Your knee-jerk reaction is always, you may say we're not going to be the policeman everywhere, but you want us to be deeply a policeman, not just a policeman, a paramilitary, right? In the Middle East, in the worst area of the world, that they've been fighting for thousands of years, they're going to be fighting for thousands of years in the future. Let them have at it. Neil Mccabe, what is going to happen today at this bilat?
It's going to be a very positive meeting between Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and President Donald J. Trump. And they're going to put forward the narrative that Lebanon can get the job done. The problem, of course, is, as you say, that, what are the real national security interests of the United States? One of the problems is that Lebanon is tied to our untangling with the Iranian situation. And that was something, with the MOUs, we said, hey, we're going to have a ceasefire and we're going to ignore Lebanon and let Lebanon take care of itself. This Lebanon plan, where the Lebanese army moves in and takes over the Israeli and Hezbollah positions, that's sort of the untangling that we're trying to put forward, or this administration's trying to put forward as they untangle from the Iranian conflict.
And that will take American troops to oversee that. It's just logical. Neil, you're doing a great job. I was not beating you up today. I'm beating up the narrative.
That's all right, man.
Hey, hang on. People talk about this election. We got to win this election. It's bigger than just that. Remember, right now we're talking about a case of potentially losing the Senate, losing the House. But even if you eke out victories, you got 1 or 2 seats on either side. How much of your agenda are you going to get passed? You're going to be this is going to be another grinded out. So I think in coming to the fork of the road ought to be a real fork in the road. Let's have an adult conversation about exactly what we're doing. And let's put out, I think the president should start putting out some of the exquisite intelligence he's been getting, because there's still a narrative driven by our intelligence apparatus with the Mossad that the Persian people are close to overthrowing this theocratic regime that they put in. And there may be a lot of insurgents, but I just see a revival of Persian nationalism. And Persian nationalism has been with us for, I don't know, a couple thousand years. Ask the Greeks about it. Ask the Romans about it. Even throw and ask the Brits about it. Neil Mccabe, social media, where do people go?
You can find me on all the socials, Steve, at Reporter Mccabe. And this afternoon, I'll be checking in on Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's testimony at the Senate on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, there's going to be sparks flying this afternoon. Pete will be up there, and Neil will be reporting from there. Also, I'm sure the president's going to open up this bilat, and we're going to go live with that as soon as it does. Thank you, Neil Mccabe. Great work, sir. Is Lindell up? How long I got a clip for Lindell? Mike Lindell, I've been beating you up for a couple of days. Let's play the clip. The newly endorsed candidate in Minnesota of President Trump, Mike Lindell, is going to join us in a second. Let's play this clip.
So Donald Trump, we don't know who you're running against yet, but he did endorse Mike Lindell, who people, I know you know who he is. He's the MyPillow guy. He's also an election denier. They were together over the weekend. There is so much to say about him as a candidate, but including the fact that he is apparently not registered to vote in Minnesota, as I understand it. But where do you begin?
Well, first you begin with he may be Donald Trump's choice for governor, but I hope to be Minnesota's choice. And this is someone like the other two who are running in the Republican primary in Minnesota, who are all rubber stamps of Donald Trump. They have not said one thing, including Mike Lindell, criticizing his tariffs. They have not said one thing criticizing what ICE did in Minnesota. They have embraced the big, beautiful bill, or as I call it, the big ugly bill that includes these devastating Medicaid cuts to rural hospitals. And then you add the bonus for Mike Lindell is that he stood with Donald Trump, as you know, and has questioned and denied the results of the 2020 elections over and over again. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump endorsed Mike Lindell on the very same week that he came out with his speech, questioning again, relitigating the results of the 2020 election, when all the people in Minnesota want to hear about is what are you going to do to stop these tariffs? What are you going to do to help me with the price of gasoline or the price of, if you're a farmer, fertilizer, or what are you going to do about the healthcare premium? So it's just those two are clearly best buddies, and that's what you see with that endorsement.
It's the one qualification, it seems, as long as you're an election denier.
Mike Lindell, you got 30 seconds here. I'm gonna hold you through the break. That's your opponent. What do you got to say?
Well, let's unpack that quick. Number one, I do have a driver's license in Minnesota. Number two, I registered over a year ago. We can put all that together for you to show everybody. They've been attacking on that. But number three, the biggest one is she says, well, Mike Lindell, the president endorsed him. Isn't it funny? The evidence comes out on Thursday, all declassified. Amy Klobuchar was the biggest voice in the country in 18 and 19 and in the 2020 movie Kill Chain to get rid of all the voting machines, and we have problems with our elections. What did Amy do since then? She went silent and she brought $20 billion into Minnesota only to be stolen by fraud and sent to Somalia. Shame on you, Amy. You're not a very good steward of our money. I can't wait to go after Steve in debating.
Hang over a second. That's going to be wild. She needs a charisma injection. Just saying. Short commercial break. Lindell on the other side.
Host Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, I want to thank Birch Gold, our sponsor this morning, and Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile 972. Patriot. Call it right now. Talk to somebody with the East Texas accent. They're always available for a prayer session. This is a Christian company, deeply Christian company, supporting your values. Jenny and Glenn's Story have just done an amazing job supporting grassroots efforts throughout the country, particularly in Texas, where the company's headquartered. If it's not for them, I think a lot of the grassroots effort down there would not be successful. So, want to get involved with a Christian company with Christian values that happens to be the best, I believe, the best mobile service in the world. Check it out today, 972 Patriot. Also, Birch Gold, birchgold.com/Bannon, End of the Dollar Empire. It's all free. If you want to get a book, put your name on for a back order. But we have 8 free installments. A 9th free installment's coming out as soon as I approve the graphics. It's going to get you totally up to speed on capital markets throughout the world, and particularly gold as an alternative for your 401k, IRA, all of it. They have all the answers. Bannon 989898. You get to Philip Patrick and the team. You get all the free information. No obligation on any of this. No obligation on End of the Dollar Empire, which is now being taught in graduate schools. Wow. Incredible. Mike Lindell. You know, I say she needs a charisma injection, but she's been elected multiple times in Minnesota. Maybe that's that kind of Fargo mentality they like up there. So what are you going to do to compete with her? I understand you're going to put up all the things she said and all the lies about the election fraud and machines, and she's a hypocrite. But what is this going to come down to? It's going to be you versus Klobuchar. You're taking on a sitting U.S. senator. She thought it was so important. The apparatus thought it was so important to defeat Mike Lindell. They don't want Mike Lindell in any elective office, that they took a sure thing in a sitting senator, and she's one of the power brokers up there. They pulled her out to run for governor against you. That is almost unheard of, sir.
No, it really is. And an angry Amy, I call her. You know, she's got a reputation for being quite angry at times with her employees and everybody else. But but what she's done is she has sat here. Minnesota, she can't distance herself, Steve, for Minnesota being under the spotlight of the world with all the corruption we have with our attorney general, our governor, Ilhan Omar, all these things. She's arm in arm with them. It's just bringing in another one of them. And let's not forget, all of this fraud happened under Amy's watch. Minnesota has now become one of the most unaffordable states in the country, and we were in the top echelon of everything before. And it's just, you just watch everything die, just like on a health thing, just boom, everything dies. We're lowest. We're in the bottom third now in education, where all of our welfare programs that are frauded, they need to be looked at. That's why I'm going to come out with my budget in the next couple weeks, so people can see here's real solutions for these problems. Amy's it's all cosmetics with these politicians brainwashing us. You see Amy up northern Minnesota at a cafe. Here I am up here. Here I am over here. Here I am over here. Well, good for you, Amy. You've never done anything other than destroy help destroy Minnesota. We love it here in Minnesota, and it's not affordable anymore. She brings up, you heard her bring up on that clip, oh, Mike Lindell hasn't spoke out about the tariffs and all these other things. Amy, you're the one in power right now, and you should be speaking out about the fraud and calling these guys out instead of trying to distance yourself from it. You should be talking about the problems we have in Minnesota with Sharia law. You should be talking about our empty city in Minneapolis, where where buildings are going from 60 million down to value of 6 million. Amy, it's shame on you, Amy. I mean, this is just, I don't even know how she can run, Steve, but this is an opportunity, an open door for this, for us to win this finally, after Minnesota's been blue since 1972, everybody, in the presidential side. We're even right now, we're even fighting our own GOP because they have their same establishment candidates that they want. And I come in and they go, and all of a sudden the machines break in May. They go, we have problems with the machines. They did everything they could, Steve, to not have me run. But I'm the people's favorite. We were favored by 7 points going into this with the Republicans. We're in the primary right now. Now with the president's endorsement, it goes to 26 points. But we're not going to sit here and just take it for granted. Right now we've got about 6,000 yard signs out. We're going to be up to 20,000. We have a big event on Wednesday in Sauk Center, Minnesota, and CNN's coming in. Little Donny's coming in from Ireland. He's coming in there to try and attack us. So we're gonna try. I told Donny, Steve, I said, I don't know if you'll be able to find an empty spot where you can say nobody showed up, Donny, but we'll try and stage it for you if there's too many people.
Give me a minute on the because I don't want people to miss the pillow deal. Give me a on the company's offer right now. It took you 250 years to get here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, and you guys, what we were going, I was going to be, in light of Amy coming on today with all her bashing me, we kind of had to switch things up. But I was going to be at the factory, and I'm going to be at the factory this afternoon. We're keeping those other sales, but we're adding now today, it's our brand new factory sale, a War Room exclusive. But one of the biggest thing is, you guys all want it, it's a free shipping on your entire order. We're bringing that back today. I'm going to be live from the factory today. My employees, you're going to see, remember we have great internet now there. I know before, back a couple months ago, as we had to move fast, we had to get the fiber put in. That's all put in now. I want you guys to see the amazing factory that we made it through with help from the War Room Posse. So we're expanding our deals. You save up to 60%, and you remember the mattresses 50% off. We still have the Mega 2 sale going on. So these happens once every 250 years where all these sales are colliding. Our My Towels, you go to mypillow.com/War Room, and you're going to see we still have that four-pack premium My Pillow set for $49.98. We're leaving all that up there. The My Pillow mattress toppers is $99.98. All of this is free shipping right to your front door, and you call 800-873-1062. 800-873-1062. My employees, they're excited about this sale. They're going to see you all this afternoon. But for now, get the stuff, get the sales. A lot of them are limited. Get them before they're gone.
See you this afternoon, brother. Fantastic work. She's a stiff. She's an absolute stiff. Angry Amy. Chapter 845 War Room. 845 War Room. Write that number down. 845 War Room. That's your hotline. You can save. Well, War Room Posse members saved over $1 million already. The key is not just savings. You get an optimum plan. It's so confusing. This is a data company, Chapter, built specifically to give you advice to kind of weave through the fog of war over there at Medicare. 845 War Room, Chapter. No, it's free, no obligation. Short break.